A chit chat, battles through the ages. Stay tuned. Hi, and welcome to my channel. My name is Sheila. Thank you so much for being here today. Today's video is just a impromptu chit chat about battles through the ages, because I've been thinking about my own. Before I get started, welcome. I'm so happy that you're here. I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. Ring that bell for all future notifications. Give me a like if you like it. And leave me a comment. Well, as I said, I was thinking about battles through the ages, because I was thinking about the battle that I'm going through right now with my mom and her going to a nursing home and everything. So I started reflecting back on my life and over the years. Now, for me, in my 20s, I didn't have what I would call battles. And when I say battles, I mean things that are going on in your mind. It's like a battle of the mind. Things that are bothering you and that have you in turmoil, and you get all these intrusive thoughts, and it could be things that you're actually going through. Well, when I was in my 20s, I already had 3 children by the age of 25, and I can't say that I had battles of any kind to speak of, but I wasn't in a good marriage, and it was a very difficult decade for me, and that was trying. I went through a lot of things, and I made it, but it was tough. Then when I hit my 30s, I don't think anything significant happened. You know, things were coming along, the kids were growing up. Now, of course, by then they were starting to enter their teens. And you know, you can have some rough spots with your kids when they enter their teen years. And there were some of those, but thank God, nothing drastic. Thankfully, I had very good children, and I am so grateful for that. So the 30s weren't too bad for me. When I reached my 40s, there were other battles, and that was the kids were leaving. They were leaving home. They all left when I was in my 40s because they were grown. And I went through the empty nest syndrome, and I went through it pretty bad. I could not stand being in my home without the kids. There was no noise. It was like being in a cemetery. It was so silent. I was used to their noises, and they always had friends over, so there were always a lot of kids at my house. And I could look out the window and see them playing in the pool or playing basketball and things like that. And nobody, there were no kids and no sounds. And it really hit me hard, to the point where I could not live there anymore. And so we made the decision to sell our home and downsize a little bit and move. And we agreed to make that decision. It turned out not to be a very good decision. We went out in the country, which I had never lived in the country before. It was not my thing, so that didn't work out. But you know, with each decade, along with these so-called battles, whether you're really going through something or just in your mind you're going through something, there are always blessings. There were many good things that happened too. I started getting grandchildren in my 40s, late 40s, and that was wonderful. Oh my gosh, it opened a whole new door of joy for me. It was just wonderful. Then when I moved into my 50s, there were some more changes. By then, I had gone through menopause in my late 40s and right at 50. So that was behind me. But you go through a lot of changes in your body, in your whole system. You notice changes in your appearance, fine lines, wrinkles, graying hair, all kind of different things that can happen. And 50s, you're you've moved away and you've gotten past that kind of motherhood, at least for me, because like I said, I had my kids early. So I was trying to figure out, who am I? What is my purpose? What do I do now? Because, I had the kids with me up until then, and that was my identity to me, was being a mother. And now they were all on their own. But again, I had the joy of being a grandparent. And that really balanced everything out for me. When I hit 60, the changes, the battles, the challenges got a little more intense. In my 60s, we found out that Dave, my husband, had cancer. Well, he still has cancer. So that was a health challenge that we had to deal with, and we still are dealing with it. My brother lost his wife, my sweet sister-in-law, Kelly. She was only 55, I believe, 54 maybe. And she passed away from Hodgkin's lymphoma or non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and she suffered for about 3 years. So that was devastating. And to think someone so young, passed away, that was hard, very difficult. Also, you start hearing about your friends from high school, or maybe you go to a class reunion and you find out there that a few people have died, your classmates, and you just can't believe it. You know how you feel. You feel fine, your health is good, and you can't imagine they're already gone. And it could be you. So that's something that you have to deal with, or I had to deal with in my 60s. Of course, my mother, aging parents. Usually, if you still have your parents when you reach 60, they're older than you are. They're probably 80 or in their 80s or older. And you notice their declining health, and you worry about them and wonder what's going to happen to them, or you're watching them fade away as they're hit with maybe a disease, heart disease, dementia, cancer, whatever it may be. So those challenges, those battles are much bigger. And it just goes on and on. And then, of course, currently, the battle that I am fighting, well, not fighting, but say dealing with my mother. She is now in the nursing home. I've talked about that. And watching her decline and go through this has just been tremendous. And my mind just wouldn't stop. These, I call them battles, but whatever they are, a lot of them are right here in your mind. And they intensify, and you get these intrusive thoughts, and you're trying to work things out, and you're trying to figure things out. And it can really take a toll on you, no matter what it is, whether you're in your 20s and going through something, or 30s. I know in today's world, people weren't married with 3 kids by the time they're 25. But I would imagine people today, young people, young girls, would be dealing with, graduating from college and then trying to decide what they're going to do with their life, what their career will be, how they're going to fit in. Maybe they've had some serious relationships that didn't work out. They went through a couple breakups with deep heartache, and that would be a battle for them. I would imagine in today's world for women in their 30s, maybe their battles are now they're getting married, they're adjusting to married life because they've been on their own for quite a while, and so you have to adjust to living with someone else. And maybe you're having children in your 30s in today's age, and you have to adjust to motherhood. You've already established your career, so now you have to balance career with children, daycare, decisions to make whether you'll continue to work or use daycare services or whatever. That would be a battle. 40s, I guess, in today's world, keeping up with your kids, keeping up with their activities and all the things that are available to kids today and teenagers, all the sports. I mean, I would be run ragged, going to all these things and taking them to this practice and that practice and all that, and you're still working and trying to keep your home together. Boy, that would be tough, really tough. And then again, in your 50s, you may be facing empty nest, or your children are getting to the age where they're going off to college or maybe getting married, and things change. You lose kind of your identity or what you thought of yourself, that you've been a mother and you run your whole life around that and around those children, and now they're leaving and you don't know what to do with yourself. You don't know what your purpose is in life anymore. But I think for all of us now, if you're in your 60s or entering your 60s or know somebody that's in their 60s, those challenges with health, we can start having more serious health problems, maybe not just achy joints in our knees or something, but you can get cancer, you can have heart disease, a lot of different things can happen. Doesn't happen to everybody, but it's more in your mind. You think about it more because people around you are dealing with it. If you're so blessed that you're not, somebody that has breast cancer or has a parent that is dying or things like that. And so it hits very close to home for you. And now that I'm close to 70, it's 6 more months, I'm trying to imagine what the 70s will be like. Will I go through a health crisis myself? Will I still have my husband? What would it be like if I was all by myself after living with somebody for so many years and having a partner? Men are really good at fixing things, a lot of men are, and you rely on them to do that. And if you're a man and you lost your spouse, you rely on your wife maybe to do the laundry right, where the clothes don't fade and they don't all turn pink or whatever it may be. So there's different situations, but as we age and go through the different ages, we have these different battles. And thankfully, as we get older, we learn to fight these battles so much better. We do have more wisdom. We have learned from our mistakes from the past. Things aren't as big as a crisis as they would have been if you had had them in the previous decade, because you learn that you will get through things. And this is minor. Like if you had a heart attack now and you came through it okay, well, that may be on your mind that you could have another one, or you've had some heart damage. But then when you hear stories about your friends dying or having a terminal cancer, then your battle doesn't seem quite so intense. So it changes. You deal with it differently. And I have learned through wisdom getting to this age how to deal with these battles, whether they're something currently going on in my life or it's just that never-ending battle in the mind with those intrusive thoughts and what's going to happen and this and that. Well, you learn you're never going to figure it out. You can't fix it. It's just so pointless. Not that we don't still do it, but we do reflect more, and that wisdom does come in and show us that it's not going to change anything. And so I was just thinking of the different, battles, ages of the battles, and trying to imagine, how I'm going to feel about the battles in my 70s or 80s if I'm blessed to live that long. And looking back on the battles that I thought were huge, and they just seem so small now. I'd really love to know how you feel about that. If you look back and see these things in your life and realize that it wasn't as big as you thought it was, and how you dealt with it. And for my inside beauty tip today, I want to share with you how I deal with my battles. I deal with my battles on my knees. I fight my battles on my knees. Now, do you physically have to get down on your knees? No. It's an expression. In other words, I pray. I talk to God. I open myself up and I confess. I reflect and then I confess and I voice out loud how I'm feeling, what I'm dealing with. And I pray for strength. I pray for help. I ask God to guide me, to give me wisdom, to help me to surrender these things, to help me leave it to Him, to trust Him, to let His will be done, and quit trying to interject my will. I don't know what I'm doing, but He does. And that's what really helps me. And I know that no matter what battle comes my way, and like right now, like I said with my mom, this is a very difficult battle for me personally. Very difficult. But I am getting through it. And I know I'm going to have bigger battles as the years march on, as I reach a different age bracket. And then I'll look back on this and I'll see where my strength came from to overcome the battles that I'm facing now and the battles that I will be facing in the future. We're all going to have them. We're all going to deal with an aging parent at some point in our life, or a teenager that's rebellious, or empty nest, or changes in our physical appearance due to aging or menopause and things like that. We're all going to have the same battles. It's how we deal with them, how we fight them, and what we learn from them. And so for my inside beauty tip that I'm talking about, fighting those battles on my knees in communion with God, really listening, really seeking Him, asking for insight, asking for Him to help me be mindful, makes all the difference in the world. We can get through anything, not alone, not on our own, but through Christ, we can get through anything. I just wanted to share that with you. That's what works for me. And I would love to know what works for you. So please leave me a comment about that. Well, I thank you again for being here today. I really appreciate it. And until we meet again, this is the old girl signing out. See ya.